Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Becky. And today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Radhika of Rad Occasions, based in Victoria, British Columbia. Radhika is a wedding and event planner, a teacher for the Wedding Planners Institute of Canada, a podcaster, and an up-and-coming industry speaker. Rad and I chatted about all things work-life balance, and she shares so many fantastic ideas for those in the wedding industry who are running a business and also trying to still have some semblance of a personal life. Whether you have kids or not, this conversation will leave you feeling encouraged and motivated to make some changes so you can find more balance in your life. And with that, let's jump into the interview. Hey, Radhika, welcome to the show. It's super fun to connect with you again. I know that we originally had connected on Clubhouse way back when, so it's really fun to be chatting with you again.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I can't even remember how long it's been since Clubhouse. I feel like that was part of the pandemic.
Right? Yeah. I have a lot of good memories of Clubhouse, but then I also totally associate it with the pandemic. And it's so weird how it was so popular and then just disappeared.
I mean, I don't even know if I have it on my phone anymore, but I'm glad that we're here talking again.
Yes, for sure. So I did, a bit of an intro for you before we started the call, but I would love it if you would just share with my listeners a bit about yourself and how long you've been in the wedding industry and what you do and all of that good stuff.
So a bit about me. I started the business back in 2015, and I worked with another event planning company for a couple of years. And I made the decision when they were closing up shop to start my own business. And at the time, I had a full-time job, and what I thought was a good relationship turned out at the time, as time went on, and I got more popular and more recognizable, that the relationship soured, and I continued on. And now I have my full-time business and a wonderful supportive husband and a toddler who's just turned 3.
Yay. That is fantastic. I love to hear it. And I feel like you are just a really great person to discuss our topic today, which is work-life balance, especially having a toddler at home and running your business full-time. So I guess my first question is, I feel like work-life balance is such a hot topic because it's does it even exist? Is work-life balance attainable? Should we be, what should we be striving for? What does a healthy work-life balance look like? So I just would love to hear any thoughts that you have on that. Is it a myth? Do you believe that work-life balance is possible?
So this is the thing. I feel like I've been talking about this specific topic about work-life balance for quite some time now. And the major shift for me happened in 2020 when all of a sudden I was looking at no work basically and figuring out what to do next. And then having a baby and a toddler and nap schedules and all of that. And I've been thinking about this more as I talk about it with people. I don't think there is particularly a work-life balance. It's more like a work-life juggle, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because it seems like priorities are always shifting, and you have to figure out, do I want my job to be a priority today, or do I have to make my sick kid a priority, or do I have to make something that's going on in the house a priority, or my husband's business trip? So I'm starting to now think that it's just a shifting in priorities or a juggling of all of the things we have to take care of.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of thinking about it as work-life juggle. I've never thought of it in those exact terms before, but I really like that kind of visual representation. It's so true. We touched on this in another episode with McKenna of Life and Letters. She has a new baby, and so she was, figuring out how to balance it all. And we kind of talked about the same thing where there's some days where my house ends up being like the last party, like the laundry and the cleaning. That's to me a lot of times the thing that falls to the wayside. Whereas like my kids and my husband and my work are kind of, at the top for me. But even those three, it's like they can't all be at the top. And so, yeah, it's hard just finding that balance, but it definitely ebbs and flows. But that was a great way to describe it.
Because the thing is that as I was talking about it, I was like, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching at all, because some days the laptop is going to be my main source. It's going to be my priority, but, and other people have to step in and help out. So I was like, I'm kind of like a hypocrite at this point if I keep telling everybody to have work-life balance and I don't even have it a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, I don't know anyone that really has that I would say has completely mastered it. It is just one of those things that we're always working towards it and trying to juggle it better and balance it better. But I don't think anyone who runs a business, especially works from home and has kids, any age kids, really at whatever season you're in, there's so much going on. And even if you don't have kids and you just, have a relationship or you have family and you have friends, no matter what season of life you're in, there's always multiple things vying for your time and attention, and just trying to balance that with running a business, which is extremely time consuming, as we all know. It's just a lot. So it sounds like you've talked with many people about kind of this idea of, the work-life balance, the juggle. What would you say are some of the common challenges that wedding pros are facing when they're trying to run their business and also have some kind of a personal life too?
So I know when I was early on, I was answering emails at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, because I had a full-time job. I didn't have a kid at this point in time, but it was if I don't answer this person now, when am I going to do it? But then the expectations started happening where they were expecting me to be available at those times, even when I wasn't. And so I feel like something that I even hear now to this day is new planners, for example, are telling me that they are answering emails at all hours because of the time management, that they haven't fully gotten that grasp of managing their time and setting boundaries. And I feel like that's kind of the thing. I feel like the wedding industry, the event industry is former or recovering people pleasers. Yep. So that's where the time management and then unclear boundaries starts. And I know also too, we don't have coworkers, most of us. We have other business owners, but we don't have coworkers that we can particularly give and delegate our tasks to, which I find is a huge wake up call when you're going from an office environment to oh, everything's on me. So I feel like that's a big, big challenge that I hear. And I know that also too, sometimes it comes down to the cost of things, because you're okay, I can answer all my emails and do all of my admin, or I can set up my website, but would it be better to pay somebody else? Or is that just money I'm sending out the door that I've just brought in?
Yeah. And it's especially hard with newer businesses who are just starting out and they're trying to, kind of figure it all out, but you're not really at a point where you can hire a virtual assistant or somebody to help manage, some of those really time consuming tasks. And yeah, you're totally right about the whole people pleaser situation. And I think there's a lot of people pleasers in the wedding industry for sure, which definitely there's a struggle with boundaries because of that, because we just want to make everyone happy. And
oh, 100%. Right. And especially because it's a day you can't redo. So you're I don't want to be the thorn in somebody's side.
Right. So what are some tools that you have found to be useful in bringing harmony to your life, having a young toddler at home and helping to provide some semblance of work-life balance? What are some tools or anything that you can share that you have found helpful?
So I have gotten myself used to being able to ask for help. I was not good at that. I feel like a lot of us aren't. And the thing is that it was either I suffer silently or I get the help. And in the end, the worst that they can say is no. I tell my couples that too. So I'm the worst that somebody can say to me is that no, they can't help me out. And we luckily you're going to have daycare in November. But I mean, even like, if you have any sort of situation, like you were saying, like, parents and family and all of that, like, it's just a matter of vocalizing what it is that you need instead of suffering through it, because we don't need to be martyrs. And another thing too is I found really helpful is having a set schedule, because like businesses have them, like some of the larger companies that we work with, like venues and catering companies, they all have set business hours and they all have set vacation time. So I feel like as small business owners, we need to step up and also put those same parameters in place. Because why not? Why can't we have the same things as our larger counterparts?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that also too, like, I don't know, can I plug this? I have this app. It's called Manulife. It's our insurance company. It's for our life insurance. They have something in there that like kind of like it promotes you to like, it gamifies your health essentially. So like they give you points for going on like walks or exercising or like spending 10 minutes meditating. And like, obviously like you can cheat the system if you want to. I'm sure you can with any of these electronic things, but it really helps you like be in that mind space of like, okay, I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and yes, I'm going to get the points, but I'm also going to sit down and actually meditate or actually do that workout. And I feel like that really helps in having like another goal instead of just being like, oh, I'm doing this to like keep myself healthy, but you're also doing it to get something else out of it that's actually tangible.
That's super cool. I have not heard of that. What was it called again?
It's called Manulife Vitality. I don't know if it's available in the States, but it definitely is available in Canada.
Okay, cool. I'll look into it. I'll see if it is, I'll put it in the show notes either way. But yeah,
okay,
that sounds
fantastic.
Awesome. Anything that like encourages self-care is important.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that we sometimes we just don't prioritize it. I mean, I can speak for myself. I don't prioritize it. And that's unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. Yes. No, I get it. Cause like, I mean, I feel like my, definition of self-care has evolved over the last few years because things were closed down, because, you have if you have like other people to consider before you can make that time. Like now I'm just like, oh my goodness, I get to be left alone for 30 minutes in my house by myself. This is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking like those little wins as they come, but we do also make it a priority to schedule vacations out of office time, even because I know like for some people, it's not a possibility to possibly go away somewhere, but at least to have that out of office on to say, hey, I'm not going to be available for this week. I think that also really helps take the pressure off. And also, I feel like it's something that we all need to do, even if we're just working behind the scenes on some things we've been meaning to do, or we are actually taking that full on vacation.
Mm-hmm. The whole idea of like setting aside time for a vacation, especially, I don't know, it bums me out because during a busy wedding season, wedding pros will just be like, nope, like I can't take any time for myself because I have weddings every weekend. And it's unfortunate. And I am guilty of that for sure. But this summer I booked a camping trip, like right in the middle of wedding season. And it was like 4 days, it was 4 days. It was quick, but just having that time to get away with my family, like totally refreshed and, re-energized myself to then come back and finish out wedding season super strong. Now I'm like, I'm going to do that every year. Like just have a little getaway in the middle of wedding season, assuming I have some weekends off to just go do that. So I totally encourage everyone to do that because it does make a huge difference. And yeah, just that time is so important. And also I have a friend in the industry who just went on this like solo business retreat, and the way that she was describing it just sounded amazing. Cause I don't really do anything like that. Me and my husband, every January, we go do like we go together and do kind of a goal setting retreat. But I've never just gone by, I don't like being by myself. So that's probably part of it, but I've never just done like a solo retreat. But the way she was describing it, like she went to the Oregon coast and she had this little Airbnb and she just like brought her laptop and she was working honestly, but it was like just catching up on all these things so that when she comes back, she's like, feels good about where she's at with her business. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. And I want to incorporate something like that too.
Oh, yes. I used to do this thing where I would go sit for a day, like for an afternoon, and I would just go sit in like one of the hotel's bars because I was like, there's nobody here that's going to know me. It's all mostly tourists. And I would go in January and I would sit on my laptop and like plan out the entire year, like what we were going to do, what our goals were. And like that just 4 hours really helped. And it was a nice time where like, nobody needed anything from me because it was January and I was still, nobody was back to work yet. So that's like another way to do the retreat if you don't have like a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that idea. This also just makes me think, this might sound a little bit random, but I haven't had a laptop for a while now. Like I just have my desktop computer that I work at in my home office. But for most of my business life, I had a laptop too. And so I would, take my laptop and go work at a coffee shop. And I just have realized recently that like, I kind of miss that. Like I miss just being able to go and yeah, like sit in a coffee shop and get a delicious coffee and do my work. Not that I don't love my home office. Like it's great. I can be in my pajamas working. Like I love that part of it. But I think there also is kind of a need to like get out of the house a little bit and work. So anyways, I'm working towards saving up for a new laptop because mine died and then I thought I would get an iPad and that could kind of be like a laptop. But for anyone who's tried that, it's not the same thing at all.
Yep,
So
I did that too.
Yeah, I was like, it has it like I have the little keyboard attachment and it, like it kind of looked like a laptop, but in reality, it's not at all. So
No, not at all. I was very disappointed too, but now I use it. We've actually switched paperless. This is like totally off topic, but we went paperless and we use the iPad for like all of the documents.
Okay. So, I know that this is not the same. This is unrelated, but, and I'm sure there's other people who would be interested too, but that's why I bought the iPad initially, because I wanted to do that. I haven't made the switch yet, but I would love, could you just like share a little bit about how that's been working for you guys? I'm very intrigued by it.
I mean, I actually do feel like this kind of does make things just fit into the topic that we're talking about because it streamlined everything that I wasn't having to print a million pages every single time and make that as part of like the things we had to do. So now everything is just on a Google Drive and they give access to everybody who needs it. And then we just download all of the documents on the iPad. And then my team does screenshots of every single document on their phones. And we create little folders and we just can refer back to it. And then sometimes some of the documents, like you can even do like on iPhones, you can have like multiple screens. So we can also save all of the important documents to like the home page when your phone's locked. And you can just like flip to the one that you need really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I hadn't thought about doing that. That's a great idea. And then if you just have everything downloaded, then Wi-Fi is not like an issue. Like because sometimes I'm at, in the middle of nowhere and there's no Wi-Fi. So
yeah, it doesn't matter because it's all downloaded.
Okay. That's so cool. I love
you just make it. You just make it available offline and then you're good to go. And I mean, it's great because then too, you can just email vendors and say, hey, I made a change to this. It's been updated live and like, you don't have to like continue to send out more documents.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Okay. And yeah, a way to tie it in with the, you're not having to print everything. Cause I spend a lot of time printing and stapling. Like it's so much paper. And then I end up, I'm recycling it all afterwards, but it's like, it's a lot of, printer ink and paper and all the things. So if I could avoid that, that would be
great.
Exactly. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for joining me on that little tangent. Okay. So back to work-life balance. Did we cover all the tools or any other like ways that you kind of manage? Did we get through that?
I do have a few more to share if we have the time.
Of course. Let's hear it.
Yeah. One of the ones that I'm a really big fan of that I used to use pre-kid, and I feel like that once he goes back to daycare, I will definitely use it again, is the Pomodoro technique. One of the photographers told me about this a couple of years ago. And basically what it is you pick one task, you set a 25-minute timer, and then you work on that task until the timer goes off, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you do like 4 circuits of this, and you can take like a longer break each time. And I found that to be really helpful because I would get distracted. I would like see an email come in and I'd be like, oh no, I should like go answer that. I can answer that really quickly. And then I'd come back to like what I was doing, but then I'd forget what I was doing. So it really helped focus everything. And then I found I was taking less time to get the one task done.
That's genius. I have heard of that. I didn't know the name. What do you call it? The Pomodoro?
The Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro.
I think of pasta every time. because if you think about it, you kind of have to like leave the water boiling for the pasta, and like you have to focus on that one thing. You can't be like throwing in like a whole bunch of other things into that pot.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I am also very prone to distraction. Like I am probably the worst, and that's why I know that I'm not a super efficient person. I have a virtual assistant, and she is so like she can get stuff done so much quicker than me because she does this. Like she just sets a timer, she focuses, and she's just doing one thing till she's done with the one thing. And I'm like starting something over here, and then I'm going to another tab, and I'm getting an email, and then I'm responding, and then I'm going over here, and it's just like all over the place. So this would be very helpful for me.
And then another thing that I do, and this is like really low tech because I am not at high tech, is I have my notes app and I write out my week and like the things that I want to get done every day. And I look at like, what else we have going on the calendar because we've got one of those shared family calendars and just figure out, okay, if I've got a whole bunch of like personal commitments, am I going to have the bandwidth to do something like really detailed, like come up with a design deck for somebody? Or am I going to be able to work on a timeline that day? So I like it kind of, that's like where the balance or juggle comes in is like, okay, what's going to take more of my capacity and what's going to take less of my capacity? So where can I like focus on for that day and get everything done by the deadline?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you. I feel like if I'm not in like the mindset for it, it just takes that much longer to get the task done.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you guys have like a skylight calendar or one of those kind of situations?
We use iCal for everything, which I know is not the best, but we both have iPhones. All of our computers and stuff are Apple, so it just works because then everything shows up everywhere without having to update it in so many places. And then the nice thing too is like I have like my work calendar where people book meetings tied into it. So it will, I can set my availability and I can be like really flexible and have that conversation with my husband if I have to have an evening meeting. And then we can like figure something else out and go from there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we do. We just have Google, like a shared Google calendar. And so we share everything on there. And that's really been so helpful. I don't know what we would do otherwise. I used to be like a paper planner person. But it was to the point where like I had the Google calendar and my paper planner. And so I was like writing things in the planner, but then also putting it in Google. And then a couple of times I only wrote it down and didn't put it in the Google calendar. So it caused like an issue because then my husband had a meeting at the same time. And I was like, oh no, I didn't put it in there. And so that's when I was like, okay, I can't do this paper planner situation anymore. Like it's all digital. But I will add just a small plug for the Skylight calendar. We just got one. It's probably been 2 weeks now. And so are you familiar with it? It's like a wall.
I've never heard of it.
Really? Okay. So it's like life-changing. It's the coolest thing. So it's like a touch screen. It looks kind of like a small computer monitor and you can hang it on a wall. I think it's like 14 inches big. They have a bigger one too. And then, or you could have it on a countertop, but it integrates with the calendar app. So we just, have our Google Calendar integrated with it. And so there's different kind of like tabs. So there's one for the calendar. And so for my kids, they're a little bit older. And so they're always asking us like, what are we doing today? What activities do we have coming up? And so now they can click into the calendar and each person has a different color. So like my older daughter's purple and she can see like her purple horse riding lessons. And then, my younger daughter's blue. And so she can see her stuff. And then me and Andrew have colors. So it's all color coordinated. Everyone can kind of see what's going on that week. And then there's also a thing for chores, which like that's a big thing in our house right now is making sure my kids are getting their chores done. And so it makes it really fun because they can just like, check things off with the click of a finger, and then there's little like fun effects. So it's, gratifying. And it's just, it's been really nice for just that visibility for my whole family. And just since we're speaking of work-life balance, I think it is already really come in handy. There's also a meal planner, which is something that I am working on trying to get better about. And there's just other random things like it'll show like kind of a screensaver of like whatever photos you upload to it in a way, like a digital photo frame as well. So it's really cool. I highly recommend checking it out.
I will have to definitely check it out. I know you mentioned meal planning, and I actually was going to talk about that because I do find that we started meal planning more because we were home more. But now I find that I'm meal planning around what it is that's going on. So I can be like not stressing out about the fact that we need to make a meal. And so it's been a shift to be like, okay, it's okay to have like something that's quick and easy instead of having something that takes a long time to cook. So like we're big into fresh prep, which I guess is like Hello Fresh or Chef's Plate or any of those kinds of things. And it's been an exercise in taking our time back.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. This is like, for me, probably one of my biggest pain points. When I'm not in wedding season, it's a lot easier for me to find the time to meal prep and grocery shop and all of it. But for whatever reason, just during wedding season, it's like we just end up eating the most random dinners. So like way more than I would like to admit, because it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't plan dinner tonight. And now it's 5:00 and I don't know what we're eating. We're having frozen pizza tonight. So that's easy. But, I like to cook and I would love to prioritize it and make the time. But I agree, like it is, knowing what your schedule is and, what's going on each night. And okay, what do I have the capacity for? Like, can I actually cook something? Can I start the crock pot in the morning and then it's ready? I love stuff like that. Like any way to make your life easier and just take the pressure off. And those meal prep kits are fabulous. I've tried HelloFresh, I've tried Blue Apron, but we do them every now and then for like short periods of time, but I'm to the point where I'm like, I think I just want to do that all the time. Like it makes it so easy.
Yeah. And the thing is like with like buying back our time too, like we will do like the mobile pickup for the grocery store. So like, I know because like it apparently takes us an hour to go grocery shopping, which I did not realize. And it only takes half an hour to like get everything on the app and like meal and plan a whole week of meals. So I was like, you know what, I'll take that too. And like, I'm not even specifically taking that time and putting it back into work. I may be just doing it so that we can breathe a little bit easier and know that like, we can be a little bit more flexible if we need to when it comes to the week and just like take it as it goes. But at the same time, we're not actually in the grocery store waiting in line. We can do something else with our time.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a huge proponent of that. We do a lot of like grocery delivery. It saves so much time. I am a huge fan. And also the other thing too is like if you're walking around the grocery store and you're seeing like all the junk food and all the things that we probably don't really need, you can avoid that by just ordering on the app and then you're not, seeing all those things. So that's been helpful for me and just like, trying to eat healthier.
Yes, me too.
Okay, well, this has been so far an amazing conversation. I love the direction that we've gone in and all of your tips so far. What would you say to someone in the wedding industry who is currently struggling with work-life balance? Like, I know you've already given us so many great ideas, but like any encouragement or words of wisdom for somebody who might be in that situation?
I know it's easy to expect this to happen overnight and just be like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to like prioritize things. I'm going to like outsource and, do the Pomodoro technique, but it takes time because I remember reading that it takes like 21 days to make a habit real because like you're basically rewiring your brain. And part of the thing I think we all need to do, especially somebody new, is like kind of just revisit your boundaries and like what you want those boundaries to look like. So I do this every year to be like, okay, why was I frustrated with that one couple and what boundary do I need to set? And of course, it's not anything that they did. It was something that, I just needed to set a clearer boundary. So I found one year I had this couple who would text me novels, and I never made it clear to them that I would prefer communication over email and over email only, unless they needed to text me like a really quick question like, hey, what time was that meeting that we were going to have again? Or can you just remind me of, what we decided for the main menu kind of thing. So I realized that that was something that I needed to set as a boundary. And I feel like when you're new, you don't set those boundaries. And I feel even as you keep going, sometimes you're worried how people are going to react to your boundaries. But in the end, I feel like the boundary needed to be set because somebody crossed it in the past, and that's where we learn. And if somebody isn't receptive to it, then maybe they aren't the person you want to work with. And I know it's a big thing when you're starting out, like not to say no to anyone, but it's definitely something that saves a lot of pain and a lot of tears in some cases and a lot of time.
That is so true. I hear from, some newer planners, and sometimes they'll just be talking about like this client that's texting them all the time. And I'm just like, ooh, like try to cut that, earlier on in the process. Because once they have, they kind of become trained to like, oh, that this is okay. And so it's a lot harder to have that conversation after, that's been going on for a long time. It's just a lot easier to have that conversation in the beginning. And, but it is hard when you are starting out. And also if you're a people pleaser and you just want to make everyone happy, it's hard to be like, hey, I don't, really prefer to do communication via text and would just prefer email. But most people are super understanding. And if you are just upfront and, tell them in a nice way, like I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain that they will be super open and willing to make that change. So,
yeah. And I mean, it's been night and day. I felt like since I did that, it was so nice to just, have one place. And then I could also just look in one place instead of looking in 3 or 4 different places to be like, where did they send that to me? Was it on Instagram? Was it a text message? Was it on Facebook? So it made things easier for everybody. Another thing that I've been talking about a lot too, and I have talked about this with some of the newer planners here, is availability versus capacity. And it's something that I remind our clients of as well, is that just because we're available doesn't mean we have the capacity. And I've summed it up to the fact that it's really important that my entire team, including myself, is rested and like ready to put their best foot forward. And I know, like, we can't help it. Like we just compare ourselves to like whatever else we see on social media and whatever else, like, somebody else is telling us about how their business is going. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you can handle and what you can do. Because, I saw this quote, I don't know who it's by, but I think it was like something like, people only saw the decisions I made, not the choices I had. So it like comes back to like we don't know what choices somebody is making in order to do however many number of weddings or events they do in a year. And it's really easy to get caught up in well, I should be doing more because this person is doing more. But we don't know if what else they've got going on in their home life. Like maybe they don't have the added responsibilities. Maybe they're hustling because they're trying to pay off some debt. Who knows what the situation is? So I've been trying to remember that when I feel like I'm starting to compare myself to others and be like, maybe I should be doing more. But then I'm remembering that I will not be good for anyone if I do back-to-back weddings, and I will have a 3-day wedding hangover. And what are we going to do with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my gosh. Will you say that quote one more time?
People only saw the decisions I made, not the choices I had.
Okay. I've never heard that, but I love that. That is such a good reminder. And it's so true. It's so easy to just see other businesses on social media and to just be like, oh my gosh, look at, they're totally booked up and they're, have these amazing weddings every weekend. But yeah, like we don't know what they have going on. I'm definitely not like a high volume business. Like we don't do a ton of weddings every year, but that's pretty intentional because I don't want to be working year round. My business is super seasonal. So I have like a busy season that is about 4 months long. And the rest of the year, I mean, obviously I'm still working, but I don't have events for months. And, we're able to focus on homeschool and I'm booking weddings for the next season, So there's consistent work going on, but it's not consistent busy every weekend, which I'm very grateful for. I need that. And I have definitely talked to other people who are not about that. They're like, no, I want to be working year round. Like I want stuff going on all the time. And I think that's great. Like if you have the capacity and you have a big team, that's fantastic. But for me and the season of life that I'm in, like I appreciate the ebb and flow and the seasonality of it. And I am getting closer to my downtime and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, like we all need that refuel. I know we just worked with a photographer who is also a nurse, and she was telling us that like she's hustling right now because she wants to buy like that dream home for her and her kids. And like I can really appreciate that, but I was also looking at her being like, that is not me. And I'm glad that there's people like that in the world. And I do remember when I was one of those people, but I feel like as I get older, I'm just not willing to lose the sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to wedding pros as it relates to work-life balance, you've already given so much great advice, but if there's anything else that you would add, what might you say?
I say that if you can template as much as possible, that's also going to be really helpful. And then that way you can like streamline and simplify and, try to outsource a little bit more if you can, if it's in the cards. And I mean, I also feel like we also need to not get down on ourselves. If like we don't get the task list done that day, there's always the next day. It's not an emergency. It's never really an emergency unless it's the day of the wedding.
Yep. That's something I've had to learn about the task list. And because I oftentimes just put too much on my plate, to be able to happen in a day. I'll have all these things that I want to get done. And then, by the end of the day, I'm moving all these things over to the next day. And at first not at first, but for a long time, I had a hard time with that. And I was like, oh, I failed. I didn't get all the things done that I wanted to get done today. And now I'm like, a lot of ways what we do, especially like in wedding planning, obviously there is a deadline of the wedding day, but a lot of it like isn't hard and fast deadlines. We have tasks that we need to get done and we need to do them in a timely manner. But if it's Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday that it happens, a lot of times it doesn't really matter. I think we just oftentimes put like these arbitrary deadlines on ourselves, which is good. I mean, we need to get things done, but in the grand scheme of things, if it happens a day or two later, like it's really probably not going to matter to our clients. It's not going to come down to like that vendor no longer being available, that kind of thing. So I have to remind myself of that because I did struggle with that for a while.
My husband's boss is ex-military, I want to say. And apparently what he says in the office are bullets flying is what the question he asks. Whenever they're like, oh my gosh, it's an emergency. And everyone's like, they like have to stop and pause and be like, no, actually they're not. So, and I have been like trying to like take that mentality on a little bit of like, it's not fully an emergency, but I know it's really easy to like think of it as one because it's such a high stakes environment.
Right. And to our couples, like it is an emergency, like in their eyes, like it is. And so in a way, like we do need to treat it in it, like, be sensitive with it, but also kind of also help them understand that like, it's okay. Like we're going to get it taken care of. If it's not tonight at 7:00, it'll be tomorrow morning at 9,
Yeah, exactly. I have one last thing to say, and I feel like it's really important in its own right, just because of the question that you had asked. But I feel like it's also really important that we all reach out to our community and try to go to the community events. Or if you're not, wanting to be in like that kind of space, try to like reach out to like a couple of vendors and like have your network. Because as I was saying earlier, we don't have coworkers. So it's nice to talk to people who get it, because sometimes our partners or our friends don't.
I'm so glad you said that. That is such an important piece of this, and a really great final note to leave this on. I could not agree more. I am a huge proponent of community and networking and building relationships within the industry, because yeah, like you said, a lot of times our partners and our friends who aren't in the industry, like, do not get it. They don't understand kind of the pressure that we're under, the weight that is upon our shoulders, dealing with such, huge life events for our clients. And so being able to just share in that with others who understand it is so essential. It's so important. So I 100% agree with you. Like, if you are not in any kind of community, at least, for one, find one, get connected. And if you're not like a big group scene person, just reach out to some local vendors and just grab coffee and just, share and build those relationships, because that will help. It'll help you get through like the really tough times in your business too, when like business is slow and you're like, why aren't I getting bookings? And then you talk to others and you're like, oh, you're dealing with the same thing? Okay, it's not just me. And then you have that camaraderie, and it's so helpful. Okay, well, this has been amazing. I appreciate all of your insight and wisdom in this area. And I want to make sure that my listeners can find you online. So what is the best place to find you and connect with you?
My regular haunt, I hate to admit it, is Instagram. So I'm there, rad occasions. I'm also trying to update my website on a regular basis. And we do have our podcast episodes still available. We're on hiatus, but it's That's Rad Podcast. And there's still some really good information in there.
Awesome. Okay, well, I will link all of that in the show notes, and everyone should definitely go listen to Radhika's podcast and check out her Instagram and all of the beautiful work that she's doing up there in Canada. Alrighty, well, thank you again. I just really appreciate you taking the time to chat today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to connect.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.